I've talked about Patriot Mobile's commitment to faith, family, and freedom. Have you made the switch yet? Support your values with your cell phone without sacrificing quality or service. Are you worried about coverage? Don't be. Patriot Mobile uses all three major U.S. networks. If you have a cell phone service today, you can get service with Patriot Mobile. Do you think switching is hard? It's not. Their 100% U.S.-based customer service team can activate you in minutes. They even have a contract buyout. So go to patriotmobile.com/Kirk25 or call 972-PATRIOT. Use promo code Kirk25 for a free month of service.
All right, it is great to be here at the University of South Carolina, everybody. You know how it works. You guys can come up to the mic. We'll have a discussion for a couple hours here. Feel free, if you disagree, to go to the front of the line. And I'll just say this. This is a much bigger crowd than we would have got at Clemson. I'll tell you what, a much bigger crowd. And I'll say this in closing. It's a predominantly conservative audience. If someone from the left comes up to the mic, let's treat them with respect. Let's not interrupt or scowl or boo them. Show the left the respect that we don't get on these college campuses. With that, let's get started. Who's first?
Hey, Charlie. My name's Wyatt, and I'm definitely a liberal. And obviously, Donald Trump ran and won in no small part due to his stance on mass deportation and border security. And on the left, I feel that there should be more consensus on border security. I think it's essential to national security. But my disagreement comes with mass deportation. I examine policy in terms of costs and benefits. And when I look at mass deportation, I see massive costs, and I see very few benefits. So my question to you is, what benefits can the American people see from mass deportation campaign?
Sure, very fair question. Thank you, and thank you for having the position that border security is important, because not everyone in the Democrat Party does. Why don't you outline some of the one or two costs? I would imagine economic or maybe cultural. Let's lay out two of the most pressing costs that you would see in your research.
So from my point of view, I see that it will likely decrease jobs for Americans. I think you look at the Secure Communities Initiative under Barack Obama and the effects of that. The studies of that showed that for every 1 million unauthorized workers that are deported, that's 88,000 American citizens who are forced into unemployment. The other cost is the opportunity costs. Obviously, one of the biggest points is to keep people safe. But if we're spending $1 trillion to deport unauthorized workers, there are better ways to spend that money to keep people safe, such as investing in police departments, paying higher salaries, better training, things like that.
So there's a third element, which is also fairness. So those of us that are conservatives that support mass deportations think that it's wrong that you can cut in line to come into the United States of America when someone else has to wait 10 or 20 years to be able to come here legally. So it's an issue of fairness. But would you agree that we are headed towards an inevitable massive job displacement problem with artificial intelligence and robotics? Would you agree that that's probably on the near event horizon of 10 to 20 years?
Yes, tech will take some jobs away for sure.
So if we now agree that tech is going to make a lot of people in this audience basically have to figure out what they're going to do with their life, and let's just take robotics, we're going to see mass application of robotics in the next couple of years in agricultural work and service work. What is then the argument to keep 30 million people in your country illegally if robots are going to be doing those jobs? I mean, if there's any jobs, I guess the question I would ask is, if you're designing a government, should jobs first go to native-born people of your country or to foreigners?
Well, my issue with that is that native workers and immigrant workers typically work different positions, right? Unauthorized workers take the construction jobs, the low-level general labor, and those jobs create demand for plumbers and electricians and construction managers, and those jobs are held by American citizens. So the fewer unauthorized workers we have, the less supply we have of the general position, and that means less demand for the middle level.
We're going to see in a near event horizon where those jobs are going to be completely replaced by robotics. So then, what's the argument to keep the people here?
I mean, do you think that like a plumber could be replaced by AI?
No, by a robot, absolutely. In 10 years, without a doubt. I encourage you to dive deep into actually how sophisticated and how quick robotics is at applying. They're building entire houses right now basically with robots, right? So what I'm getting at, though, is if you're getting advanced robotics that are displacing all these jobs, then what is the argument to keep the people that broke our laws to come here? Why keep them here? And they didn't follow our customs. They cut in line. It's an issue of fundamental fairness. So outside of the economics, which is not very persuasive to me, isn't it fair to say that if you come here without invitation, you'll be returned to your country of origin. Isn't that an issue of fairness?
So fairness is absolutely an issue, in my opinion. But it makes no sense to then uproot those people. Many of them have been here for 10 plus years. That's the thing. So pulling them up out of their roots is damaging to the rest of society. So
How is it damaging to someone? Let's just say if a native-born American plumber has to compete for wage growth against someone who came here illegally, wouldn't it actually be better for Americans that their wages would go up?
Well, their wages wouldn't go up because there'd be less demand for plumbers.
No, the demand stays the same.
How does the demand stay the same?
Well, because the demand side, you're talking about the supply side, not the demand side, right? So demand is people want something, customers, and if there's less people that are doing the plumbing job itself, the supply will actually decrease and wages will increase.
Right, but there wouldn't be less people doing the plumbing jobs because the unauthorized workers are
would.
working the low level, the general construction positions.
Well,
and that creates the demand for the plumbers, does it not?
That, again, I have a much different view of the labor market. I think that if we had a slight wage adjustment, Americans would do those jobs and can do those jobs. In fact, I think we think very too little of the American labor market. But let me ask you one final question here. Why do you think Americans voted for mass deportations?
Well, I think it is a thought of fairness. I think we have a uniquely punitive society. I mean, we see that with our sentencing. And so it's an idea that, well, one, it's the rhetoric that deporting them will make us safer, which I disagree with. And also, it's the...
Okay. I mean, wasn't there just a student here that got killed by an illegal alien?
Absolutely. Are there?
I don't want to play. I don't want to overplay that card because I know it's I'm not trying to politicize that.
And that's
but
a tragedy, and absolutely every loss of life.
Isn't it a material fact that if that illegal alien wasn't here, that student would be alive?
Absolutely. But let me ask you: Are there American citizens that also kill people?
Yes, of course, but they're here with warrant.
Yeah.
So the question is, if you have a big house party, and a certain portion of the people in your house party aren't invited, and they start stabbing the other guests, say, wait a second, they weren't invited.
Right.
They're not supposed to be here. We have a process in order for you to come into our own nation, our country, whatever you want to call it. And so the failure to enforce those laws makes you no longer a country.
Sure.
And just so we are also clear, every single person who crossed the border illegally definitionally is a criminal because they committed a crime.
Sure. So I guess my proposition would be a smarter alternative, an alternative where border security is important, where we're limiting those that come across in the future.
Fair enough. Let me ask.
Also, also concentrated, dynamic deportation of those who are harmful, and allowing those that contribute to society to stay, so that the rest of us can benefit from their labor.
So let me ask. This is a good moral question. So I'll tell you what I believe, then I'm curious what you believe.
Sure.
If somebody crosses into a country without invitation, without warrant, illegally, I believe that person should be returned to their country of origin. What do you believe the punishment should be, if at all, for somebody that comes into your country uninvited?
Going forward, I believe they should be deported. But right now, they have roots here, and my argument is
that's a fair argument. So you're saying
we've made our bed, and we have to sleep.
Got it. So you're saying that there's an event horizon, that if you've been here for more than 5 years, you're off limits.
Yeah.
But if you've come within 5 years, they could be deported.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't agree with the post 5 years, but that's a much more mature, sophisticated view of immigration, that if the Democrat Party held, our country would be in a much better place.
Right. I believe it's a smarter alternative, and I advocate for that.
So that is some sophistication and prudence, because there should be a punishment, and you can understand why.
Absolutely.
If we don't have deterrence, then you're going to have, as it happened under Joe Biden, 10 million people a year coming into your country, and it's full destabilization. So thank you for your question. Really appreciate it. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for
appreciate it. Thank you. Sorry about the weather, guys. We tried our best, but
Good. We love you.
all right. How are you?
Good to go.
Make sure you talk right into the mic. Yeah.
Okay, Charlie, I'm not melting from the rain.
Make sure you don't touch the mic. Don't touch the mic.
Don't. Yeah.
Sure.
Can you raise it for you?
Sure. Thank you. Nice. 1, 2, 3. Howdy, Charlie. My name is Ethan. A little nervous. I have a debate background, nowhere near this size, but it's pretty fun. So I am a liberal, and I would like to discuss with you the topic of abortion today. I know. Yeah. And that's okay. I firmly believe that the pro-life argument is something that is held in good faith, and I used to side with that. But I think from a philosophical background, I don't think it holds the scrutiny, and I'm happy to present my argument for you on that. All right. So before, I would like to establish a few, I'll say like foundations that we can probably agree on. So the first argument I'd like to make is that this has to be within a secular framework, which I believe you have said that you can defend from a secular frame. Is that correct?
Yes, however, define secular.
Not coming from religion, so no appeals to like a divine entity or like objective, like universal rights, for example.
Well, can we agree murder is wrong?
Yes.
Is that an objective truth?
Not necessarily, because you could ask the
wow.
question, wait, listen, I can answer that. Murder, by definition, is wrong because it is the unjust killing. So you would have to make the argument, is killing objectively wrong, which obviously in cases of self-defense is not. So that is my statement.
Was Hitler objectively evil?
It depends on who you ask. If you ask a Nazi, he's going to say no. If you ask a Nazi, to me, of course he was, but I'm not a Nazi.
Was the Holocaust objectively evil?
It depends on who you ask.
I hope you can see this is where, I did this for a reason. This is where A, secular philosophy leads you, where you're not able to say objectively Holocaust wrong, and B, most abortionists at their core do not believe the Holocaust was objectively wrong. That's not a criticism of you.
Sure.
That is a fact of philosophical morality.
Sure.
And I'm not trying to be unfair to you. I know you said you're nervous, but that is the furthest extrapolation of basically secular pro-abortion worldview. I interrupted you, so please continue. But at least we can agree murder is wrong.
By definition, it has to be.
Okay, well, it actually doesn't have to be.
I disagree.
Okay, but we said is murder objectively wrong?
By its definition, it has to be.
Okay. You're gonna have to further educate me on that one.
Sure,
But
easy.
you mentioned abortion, so continue.
Sure. But at least can we agree that for the purpose of this conversation, as you
Yes,
stated in Jubilee,
I will not appeal to Scripture or God's Word or
like an objective,
Christ our
like
Lord.
moral, like unity or in the universe or anything like that.
Well, again, at some point we're going to appeal to some agreed upon moral framework.
Yes.
Which is the same thing as appealing to religion. But for the purpose of this argument, I will use agreed upon Western morality and bioethics, biology, and reason for the point of this discussion.
Excellent, thank you. The second point I would like to ask is I would like to make the statement that we ought to respect and I want to make this statement clear, the wants and desires of the unconscious, such as dead people, sleeping people, comatose people, etc. Would you agree with that statement?
Well, what wants does a dead person have?
Easy. So I can answer that. So, for example, let's say I have a heart attack right now, but my friends, let's say Charlie, I tell you, I would like to be cremated, right? And let's say you're like, sure, Ethan, I can take care of that. I think that you now have a moral obligation because you have agreed
Fair enough,
to that.
I got it. But
Right.
actually, the dead person doesn't have the want. It was a wish while you were alive.
Yes, I absolutely
okay,
agree.
got it.
I absolutely agree.
Fine.
But I do believe that there is a moral
This
compulsion.
is a long wind-up, so let's
No,
get to
it's
the-
important, I promise you. I promise. But I'm glad we agree on that. Nextly, I want to make the argument that it is not life in of itself that we value, but it is the human experience that we value.
No, I don't agree there.
Okay. Should we have let... are you familiar with the Terry Schiavo case?
Very.
Should we have let her basically be unplugged?
Well, it's a question of we. Who is we? The government, society, or the family that made the ultimate decision?
It can be any.
Well, no, it actually matters. So which we are we talking about? The doctors, the medical professionals, the county, the state of Florida, right? I mean, there's like 9 different layers involved in this. But so let me just educate the audience. The Terry Schiavo case is the most high-profile, quote-unquote, brain-dead case of this modern era. Beautiful young woman goes into basically a coma, and what ensued was a series of lawsuits where some people in the family wanted to keep her on life support, and some people wanted to basically pull the plug. The government intervened. However, someone who is, quote-unquote, brain-dead is actually far more alive than you might realize. Did you know that someone that is brain dead, a woman, for example, she still goes through her menstrual cycle? So if a woman is brain dead, how is she still menstruating and ovulating? Maybe we are more than just our brain activity. Maybe there's a lot that happens in our being beyond just what we can detect on a SPECT scan. Secondly, a brain dead person, because I understand where you're going towards this.
Sure.
A brain dead individual, quote unquote brain dead, there have been instances, albeit very rare, where people that have no detectable brain activity actually come out of that and they have full consciousness. Very, very rare, but those are documented cases. Did you know that someone that is brain dead, if you happen to, let's just say, put a knife in their knee, their norepinephrine and their adrenaline increases, even though they are brain dead, their immediate adrenaline response goes up. And so what you consider as brain dead, they're actually very much alive. Let me make one final point. To the menstruation part, a brain dead woman can get pregnant and deliver a child. She's not dead. It's just that her brain waves have decreased significantly.
May I respond?
Yeah, sure.
Excellent. So there was a lot to unpack there, and because there's so much, and we only have so much time, I'm going to address the first thing that you said between who is we, and to that I would probably, I'm not going to make a hard standing on this, but at least at a first thought, I would argue that it is between the loved ones of Terry Schiavo and the doctors who are taking care of them. I think that's a question that's between the person who is injured, the people taking care of them, and the doctors.
So let's fast forward this to abortion, and I can kind of cut to the essence of it. When does life begin?
Conception.
Oh, it does begin at conception.
I agree.
Okay. So
Yes.
then should every life be protected post-conception?
I believe that every conscious experience that the human body has should be protected. Not necessarily life in of itself, as I personally and as many people in the audience would agree. If I became brain dead, if I or you became brain dead, and there was no chance of you ever waking up, you probably would want them to pull the plug. And if you disagree, that's okay. But I don't think that's the case.
Hold on, but a
held by most people.
4-week-old baby left uninterrupted and properly nourished does wake up and have full consciousness and brain
Correct.
waves.
Correct.
So it's a completely different thing. You're talking about someone that has very little likelihood of brain activity reemerging versus a unborn baby in utero who inevitably will almost certainly have brain activity. So interrupting one actually prevents the development of consciousness, where interrupting the other actually does not.
May I respond? The issue I have with this is the conscious experience hasn't begun yet. For example, let's say this person right here to my left, if I punch him really hard, there is a person who we give moral consideration to that I have enacted violence upon. And we can make a objective statement on that, or he obviously has a conscience, we can agree on that. We can make an objective statement that I have violated what he wants. But the thing is, a fetus prior to approximately 20 weeks, or at least that's what I've read, does not have a conscious experience. Therefore, it cannot care
Brain
about what
waves
happens.
start a lot earlier than that. They start around 8 to 10 weeks. But brain waves and consciousness are not necessarily the same thing, right?
Correct.
So this is where we differ.
Yes.
We believe that the human experience is more than just brain waves. And I've proven it to you that your body still continues to function even though your brain is brain dead, menstruate, adrenaline spike, so on and so forth. There is evidence to show that there's a lot more going on here than just the material between both of your ears. I suppose the question that I would ask, though, is do we have a moral right to protect humans along the stage of development, regardless of whether or not they can feel or sense experience at that period of time?
Do you mind if I rewind back to Terry Schiavo? Because I don't think you gave an objective answer to this. Should we have unplugged Terry Schiavo, who would have never waken up?
That wasn't my family member. It's a very difficult...
Let's say you were.
The answer is I don't know.
If you had to guess, or let's say you do have a family member, and it does happen.
The
You know,
answer,
we can do a trial.
It depends on the patient's wishes, first and foremost.
Let's say you don't know.
Yeah, again, it's a very subjective thing. I tend to go towards life. I tend towards the continuation of life.
Okay, so then you, let's say you have a very close relative, and that person would not ever wake up from a persistent vegetative state, then you would not allow that person, effectively like euthanasia. So, yes.
It's too much of a hypothetical. I don't know because it depends on circumstances. There's a lot of difficulties and complexities. It depends on their age, depends on their case history. It depends on whether or not they're responding to people's voices, all sorts of different things. However, you are conflating two separate things. You're talking about one that is highly likely to stay in a vegetative state versus a being that is
Can the crowd be quiet, please? I'm trying to listen.
is alongside a process of human development.
Can all
And
be quiet,
so,
please?
so
Can all be
again,
quiet, please?
we have a fundamental difference
Sure.
of what we believe a human being is. We believe a human being is far more than just consciousness and reason. And we know this. I mean, this is objectively a proven fact. You are more than your five senses. Would you agree with that?
I don't know how to answer that.
So I want you to think for a second. Are you only five senses?
The best I can answer is and this is going to be very vague, but because that's a very hard question to ask, I am essentially me. The five senses are a incorporate part of me, but I don't think that necessarily pertains to my
No, it
argument
does.
personally.
Well, it does because basically consciousness is exhibited in five senses, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay. It is. So, but the point being is, which one of your five senses tells you there's only five? There's something above just your five senses that transcend it.
This sounds kind of like a non-secular argument when you make this like ascension like thing, and we have to keep.
No,
it
I mean
non-secular.
you can be a secularist and still believe in a soul. You can believe an idea that there is a being within you that is above reason. So anyway, we're just going to disagree. Let me ask you just one final question.
Oh, wait, because I'm approaching you, can I ask this
Yeah, sure.
instead?
I mean, it has been a little. Yeah, sure.
Sure,
I've
sure.
given you a fair
But
amount.
the thing, the ultimate crux of my argument is that because there is no sentience, right? In the same way, like if I were to punch a person, there's a person with a clear consciousness that I am enacting violence upon, and this is a bad thing. But because there was never consciousness to ever experience, I don't understand how we can have harm or suffering in that moral system, since nothing was ever negatively acted upon.
Great
something we
question.
have. Yeah.
If I go under general anesthesia, do you have a right to kill me?
You already agreed with me that we need to value the rights of people who are unconscious. You already agreed.
No, I know, but if I'm under general anesthesia.
Yes, and you're unconscious.
Okay, so but explain to me the difference between unconsciousness and then the Terry Schiavo case, because people come out of brain dead all the time.
You just said it was extremely rare, and
I
also we
acknowledge
have very great methods of determining whether someone's going to be in a persistent vegetative state. So we do have the tools to be able to tell when a person is going to come back.
I keep going back to this, but is a 6-week-old baby going to stay in a persistent vegetative state?
No, but it doesn't have an
Okay, so-
experience to begin with, and therefore,
Okay,
why is
so
it granted moral consideration?
Got it. Because we believe that all human life is equal, regardless of its size, level of development, environment, or its degree of dependency.
But then people who say that they would pull the plug on Terry Schiavo are now violating that principle, no?
Not necessarily. Again, the Schiavo case has a lot more complexities. And again, to conflate a brain-dead individual with a fetus that is struggling to develop and alive, or a baby, they're two completely different things.
No, yeah, you're right, and that's
One
why
has an
they
entire
are
life
different.
ahead of it.
So
One likely
no.
does not.
So I'm sorry, I'm getting excited. The thing with Terry Schiavo is that she would never have a human experience whatsoever ever again.
I do want to get to the next question, but let me just ask one final thing. Would you like to see less abortions in America?
It depends on the context.
Okay.
As long as no moral harm is done to a person that we give
Are you
moral
glad you
consideration
were
to.
not aborted?
If I was aborted, I wouldn't care. Because you wouldn't exist. You wouldn't care, and that's a fact.
We have a big difference of opinion. The final thing I'll say is this: we believe that life is a gift and an amazing thing, and to deprive another being of life is you then using basically your incumbent power structure to interrupt somebody else from being able to flourish and prosper, which we consider to be the apex of immorality. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, can you do it on your phone? Hey, Charlie. So everybody standing in the rain, I think they all need to hear this. I just want to thank you. Like, you come on these stages and you teach people how to debate professionally. You do it from a Christian values, and you're very respectful. You let people finish, and I think the world needs to see that. So thank you very much, Charlie. And then, thank you. But before I hop into my question, I just wanted to say, like, listening to that last debate, I was actually in a coma for 3 weeks. I was killed on Airport Boulevard here in Columbia on a motorcycle. And thank God they didn't cut me off, because I found God 1 year later, got baptized 2 years later, and it's the best thing that's ever happened. So, asking my question, this comes from the perspective of I'm the founder and owner-operator of Ballot Access Pros. We knocked over 500,000 doors for Trump last year. We got RFK on the ballot in multiple states, and we fight for causes all over America. And one thing I've always stayed away from is abortion petitions, right? I think that abortions are acceptable only in a very few cases. But I think the liberal side will continue to push abortions, right? So this is where maybe you and I would disagree, and I brought this up to many people, and I just want to hear an honest opinion, especially from somebody educated like you. So it'll take me about 2 minutes to explain. Is that acceptable? Perfect. So right now, if kids grow up in fatherless homes, they're 71% more likely to be incarcerated. They're less likely to graduate high school and college, and they're more likely to hold a lower paying job, right? Now, yet the courts still award custody to the mothers the majority of the time, whether it's a good scenario for them or not. Then if a woman gets pregnant, right, she can choose to abort a child and the man has zero say-so, even though it was a 50-50 act, right? Now, when you look at a man, if a man chooses to walk away from a child, he's going to spend 18 years in child support, and if he doesn't pay, he's going to go to prison, which there's clearly 11 million people already incarcerated for this right now. So my idea is, what would get me to support an abortion petition? It would be this. So let's say that a man and a woman decide to abort a child. They may do that in all 50 states up to 6 weeks before a heartbeat, right? What they will do is they will pay restitution to the state equal to what a father would pay in child support to programs for fatherless homes, right? So single parent families. They both would pay that fee separately. If a woman chooses to still have an abortion, but the man would like to have the child, the woman may do that, but she will pay restitution to the state for 18 years equal to child support. If the man decides that he wants it and the woman doesn't, right, he may have custody of that child, and then he will pay all medical expenses for the pregnancy and after, but he'll get full custody. So that's the premise of the idea. I want to know, like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I'm glad God saved your life, number one. So praise the Lord. Number two, thank you for your advocacy for President Donald Trump. That deserves to be noted. Three, thoughtful analysis. I disagree. Just because human development begins at conception. And we can play games with it and say, well, it matters when the heartbeat or the previous question. Consciousness, it comes down to the question of when did your life begin and when does objectively life begin? And if we start to play games with when, well, they really are a human being at 6 weeks, but they're less than human at 6 weeks before that, then we are diluting and compromising actually what a human being really is. So while your approach, actually I would support in the sense that it would limit the amount of abortion, so it's a very pragmatic step, it would not be the ultimate destination of where I'd like to see the abortion advocacy go.
Great. So I'll end it on this. One, because I have over 130 employees with ballot access work, I would love to partner with you and work with you in the future. So maybe after the event, I can grab your number.
I've heard great stuff about you, so I'm happy to talk.
Thank you.
You got a great reputation. Thank you, man.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it. God bless you. Thank you. Disagreements can walk on up or whoever's up. Thank you, sir.
Hey, Charlie. Hey, as someone who has experienced the power that is in the name of Jesus, I have a testimony for him. About a year and a half ago, I was diagnosed with brain cancer, and in a matter of days, with prayer in the name of Jesus, he took them out of my head, just like that. And so I have a testimony that is super powerful for him, and I'd love to hear yours. Also, my question is, why do you believe the Bible, being as, you know, the inerrant word of God, why do you believe that should be the forefront of this nation? And what do you believe the effects of that will be on this nation?
First of all, again, praise the Lord that God saved your life. That's the second one today. It's amazing.
Yeah, praise Jesus. Praise Jesus.
I do not have a testimony nearly as compelling as yours. Very simple. I was a 5th grader at Christian Heritage Academy. My teacher taught about sin. Sin terrifies you and then brings you to Jesus, because when you realize the nature of sin, you realize you need a Savior. I made Jesus Christ the chairman of the board of my life when I was in 5th grade.
Awesome,
it's been the most important decision I ever made. Everything I believe stems from Scripture, stems from God's Word. We must submit to God's will in all that we do. It's okay to wrestle with God. That's literally what Israel means, to wrestle with God, to question and have tension with what God wants out of us. And so why do I believe the Bible? Well, I could give a whole speech on this, but from a historical text standpoint, the Bible is one of the most is the most original source document, historically verified historical documents in history, essentially. I could go on at length about it. I want to hear more about your story. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, so about a year and a half ago, I went down spring break to Amarillo, Texas to visit my grandma, but there I was diagnosed with brain cancer, and the doctor came in and said, hey man, I'm really sorry, but you have cancer. And in that moment, it was just like, never thought I would be here, but God, like I'd known God for most of my life, grown up in a church, and it's like, God, how could this be your good, pleasing, and perfect will for my life? Like, how are you going to work this for your good? And from then on, I got airlifted back to Denver in my home, and God moved in miraculous ways. You just talked about wrestling. There was a night where I felt like I was physically wrestling with God in my bed, like Jacob wrestled with God in the Fort of Jabbok in Israel, which means to press down, to squeeze. And that's what the Lord was doing on my heart. He squeezed me. But from then on, when I finally submitted my life to Christ, I was able to see him move in more miraculous ways than I could have ever imagined. And he has been the forefront of my life. And if I could say anything about Jesus right now is, guys, his return is coming soon. Amen. His return is coming soon. If you look at Israel, if you look at all of the prophecy that's going on, if you look at Israel wanting to build a third temple, they have red heifers ready to sacrifice. If you look at all the AI and all this stuff leading towards Christ, right? He's coming back, and if your heart is not with Christ during that time, what's going to happen because of that is you're going to go to hell. It's just what's going to happen. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and there's no way to the Father except through him.
God bless you, man. Thank you so much.
Amen.
Thank you. Beautiful testimony. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Hi, how are you doing today? My name is Ash, and I want to start off this conversation. I do want to get back into abortion a little bit, but I want to start off this conversation by saying I am a Christian. I go to church every Sunday. I believe in God. I've seen his work, and I don't want that to necessarily be a basis for the discussion. So we can both agree that a fetus has viability outside of the womb at 20 weeks. We've seen it happen. We have not seen a fetus be viable outside of the womb before 20 weeks, right? Okay, so getting into that, we can go back to someone who is brain dead or in a long-term vegetative state, right? They cannot live without the life mechanisms that are helping them breathe, like their ventilators, if they're on dialysis, if they're in kidney failure, stuff like that, right? So could you make the same argument that a fetus that is living inside of a mother's womb cannot live outside, relating it to the life-sustaining like stuff that is keeping a person alive if they're in a coma or something?
Right, not to rehash the prior argument, but
Yeah.
you understand the moral difference. A 17-week-old allowed to continue to develop will become self and independent, where an individual in a vegetative state will almost assuredly not. They're two separate things. Secondly, it goes back to the question, define viability. There are babies right now that are 27 weeks in the NICU, which is the neonatal intensive care unit, that have all sorts of compartments all around them. Is it morally justified to pull the plug on a baby in NICU?
So most women, like going to abortion, most women are not getting late-term abortions if it is something that they want. People who are getting late-term abortions are people where the fetus is either like already dead, so getting like kind of a miscarriage.
So that's not an abortion, just so we're clear. The removal of a carcass is not an abortion, but yeah.
An instance where a woman is getting an abortion because if she has this baby, she will die.
Yeah, but why would they not be counseled to get a C-section?
If someone is gonna die from giving birth, whether
It's not, C-section is not the traditional vaginal birth. It's way safer and quicker than an abortion.
it might be safer, but there are still
It might be
instances.
safer. You disagree? So then shouldn't we counsel women to get the safer option? That
There is still a chance that they're gonna die, though.
Well, there's a chance they could die if they get an abortion too. Abortion is actually the deadlier of all the options for a woman in a crisis post-20-week situation. But the abortionists make more money, and it's easier to just terminate the life. For example, if you have the uterine wall break at 28 weeks, serious problem, you have an option. Go get an abortion or go get a C-section. Which one is actually quicker?
An abortion, but
No. C-section's way quicker.
But what
like
I'm
you could
saying
go
is-
right now to Columbia General and you could get a C-section in like 15 minutes. They're primed for an abortion. Is actually like a 9-hour procedure. The point being is that you're talking about a very isolated set of cases. However, even with those isolated set of cases, we are led to believe that abortion will save the mother's life when there's an alternative cesarean section on the table that these moms are almost never told about.
So then the issue is educating women on their options. So here's my thing.
Which OBs should be doing, but they're not.
If there's a woman who, like you said, 27 weeks, uterine wall breaks, most likely that woman wants to have this baby. They have carried it to 27 weeks. They didn't get an early term abortion before the fetus was viable. They want to have this child. So if they aren't given this option, then what are they supposed to do? So could you see a world in which we give legislation into where OBGYNs, doctors, surgeons are forced to give...
Yes, and it gets voted down by Democrats in the pro-abortion lobby all the time. This is our advocacy, is that you are not stuck if your pregnancy goes wrong in the 20 weeks. In fact, a C-section is safer for you and safer for the baby, like 99.9% out of 100 times when that terrible situation happens. The problem is that the OBGYN industry will present abortion as a much more viable option when it just isn't, because also they don't even factor in the baby's life. It's like, okay, it's just a disposable component here, where our perspective, and I know you might disagree, we should seek to save both lives, both the mother and the child, where the OBGYN, and this is how they're medically trained, is first and foremost the doctor for the mother and then the baby second. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I can find middle ground here. I can agree with that. And because, again, I don't think that any woman who's carrying to 27, 28 weeks is wanting to have an abortion. So those options should be, like, educated, and people should be given options.
Fair enough. I agree.
Can we move to early term abortion a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. So is there any instance, whether rape, incest, anything like that, where you would agree with an early term abortion? No. Not a single instance? So, like, a 13-year-old who was raped has no financial stability, can't even get a job because you can't get a job until 14, 15, 16 in the U.S., who cannot support that baby. If it was her father, then she has no support from her parents. What is she supposed to do in that situation?
You could put the baby up for adoption. But outside of going into the extreme specifics of your case, which does happen, it goes down to the fundamental question. Is it a baby that she is helping develop in her womb, or is it something else? If it's a baby, then you must have universal human rights applied to that baby, definitionally.
Can you claim a fetus on your taxes? No, you can't. You can claim a 1-year-old. You can claim a 9-month-old.
Actually, that's a great idea. We should actually have child support starting 9 months earlier. So you won me over.
There we go.
But if your point is that our federal tax code reflects abortion laws, then you've made the point. But I guess my question for you, when does life begin?
I think that life begins at birth, and I know you're going to disagree with me on there. But I also believe that, like, once the fetus is viable, if the birth happens at 20 weeks, 21 weeks, then that is a child. But before that, when it does not have, like, all of its functionality to be able to live outside the womb, even in, like, the NICU, then it is not alive. It's not a child.
Babies in the NICU are not alive?
I said when they are able to live.
I know, but what's the moral difference, though? They have machines, they have assistants.
You cannot have a 15-week-old fetus and have it live outside of the womb. Bottom line, we don't have the technology to do that.
So at one point you were a fetus, right? Mm-hmm. Were you alive when you were a fetus?
No.
Really?
I don't believe that I was alive. I didn't have thought.
Okay, so I do want to go back to one component of your argument. You talked about that you are a Christian. So in the book of Luke, it says that John the Baptist leapt in the womb when it came near Jesus Christ. It's the word brephos for baby. Was John the Baptist and Jesus a baby or a fetus in the womb?
I think he was a fetus.
So Jesus was not alive in the womb?
I think that he had his, like, functionality, but he wouldn't have been able to live outside of the womb.
How do you leap if you're not alive?
Babies move all the time. It's instinct. It's not like, it's the same way. It's not like something that they're thinking about doing.
Right. So my 6-month-old has a lot of different instincts. When you get a newborn baby, it will wean for its mother's breast. It's not thinking, it's instinct. When you poke a baby in the stomach, it will react. So a baby cannot hunt or gather for itself until it's probably 4 years old. Therefore, it's dependent on the mother, dependent on the father. How is that any different than a baby in utero that needs nutrients from the mother?
Because in utero, right, the mother doesn't have a choice. Whatever they eat, going to the baby. Whatever they drink, going to the baby. All of that. And sure, they're able to give it up for adoption, and then they won't have to worry about it. And our adoption, the system currently is a whole nother issue. But sure, they are able to give up this baby for adoption, and then they don't have to worry about it. But it's having the choice of if you want to nourish that child, go through all of the pain and struggle and everything that comes with being pregnant.
So outside of rape, would you say we should get rid of all abortions except of rape and incest?
I think I'm not pro-abortion. I am pro-choice, and ultimately, it's not up to me if she was pregnant and wanted to get an abortion. That shouldn't be my decision, and so I don't think it should be the government.
So therefore,
but I'm not pro-abortion. I don't think that voluntary late-term abortion should be allowed.
I got it. Well, so let me ask you a question. Since you're pro-choice, should a mom be able to choose to abort her baby if she finds out she's having a girl and she wants a boy?
So
you're pro-choice.
I don't think that voluntary late-term abortion should happen past 20
that's
weeks.
not the question.
So that's what I'm saying. If that's the woman's choice, then that's the woman's choice. And a lot of times that's going to be a discussion.
Wait, hold
but
on.
The thing is, you're saying this, but people don't do that.
Oh, no, they do it all the time. It's actually illegal in America to do it. In fact, they do it so much they had to pass a law where people would get genetics tests around 12 to 14 weeks. They would find out they were having a girl, and the incident rate of abortion would spike. It is illegal in America to have sex-selective abortion. So your view of basically developing a child is no different than like customizing a Ford Explorer. It's like, I like this characteristic, but not this characteristic. Do you think it should be legal if you find out your baby's having Down syndrome to terminate your baby?
No.
But you said you're pro-choice. So you're not. So you are getting in the way of a mother's decision. The mom doesn't want to go through the pain of raising a Down syndrome kid. She doesn't want to pay for the Down syndrome kid.
But that's my personal beliefs, not the beliefs of what thing.
Again, no. But I'm saying legally. Should it be legal?
I think if the baby is, and I have a little brother with a lot of special needs. He lives off of oxygen. He's in a wheelchair. I have grown up around kids with special needs, and so I understand that it is so hard for parents, for siblings, for grandparents to go through that. If somebody doesn't think that they're in the financial stability, because children with special needs are a lot of money and they don't get as much support from the government as they should for them. They're a lot of work. They're a lot of time. So if somebody doesn't
So knowing all that, you're actually uniquely positioned to answer the question.
If somebody doesn't think that they are in the financial position to be able to give this child the best possible life that they could have, if like they are poor, if it was a thing of incest or rape and they don't have support from a partner, I do think that like in those instances, I would agree more with giving up for adoption. But again, the adoption, like foster care adoption systems aren't built to support children with special needs. They aren't. It is so difficult for children with special needs to get out of the adoption system. And so in instances like that, again, I believe it's up to the mother's choice of what she wants to do.
How is your view of up to the mother's choice any different than eugenics?
I don't believe that you should abort based off of, like, my personal beliefs, right?
No, I know,
but
your indifference, the lack of a law, or you advocating for a law, is you basically giving a tacit level of support of it. Because it does happen and it will happen. So we have laws that are a reflection of morality. That's why we have murder laws and you can't steal and you can't commit arson. So we actually have a law where it's illegal to abort your baby based on Down syndrome. It's a law. Mm-hmm. You would support getting rid of that, basically.
I wouldn't support getting rid of it if it's already in place. My thing is when we had Roe v. Wade, which gave women reproductive freedom to have abortions, especially if they were deemed medically necessary, if it were in cases of rape or incest, and we moved back on those to get rid of them. We didn't have them, and then we had them, and then they were taken away.
Do you think an abortion is a tragedy?
It depends on the person. If someone got raped And they probably are going to carry so much resentment toward this child. And I'm not saying every case. Some women won't carry resentment toward this child. But if you're carrying resentment towards this being due to how it came to be, then...
So then just murder it. Essentially. So somebody in this audience was conceived in rape. Can you tell me who?
Was it you?
No, but someone is. Can you tell me who?
No.
Do they have a big R on their head?
No.
So wait, they're just the same type of human being that we are? So
Yeah,
they're
but
indistinguishable, so they get God-granted human rights regardless of their method of conception?
But that's like, yes, sure, the child is going to be the same or whatever, but we don't know how they're going to end up being raised because, again, the mother might not have the support. She might not have this. She might not be able to give them life.
I'm curious, though, how is it morally justifiable from a Christian worldview to, I would say murder, but you would say terminate a life, even if you're not sure how their life is going to work out? By what moral biblical standard is that justifiable?
I think people should have their own right to choose. And I have a right to choose to believe in God. Other people have a right to choose what they want to do with their bodies.
Should I have a choice to be able to murder my cameraman?
You have that choice, and you're going to get punished for it.
But no, I'm saying so without law.
Meaning if there was no law.
Yeah, I mean, get rid of murder laws. I should have a choice to be able to murder him.
I guess. Like, I mean, we live in a society where
you're talking about the repealing of murder laws at this point.
We live in a society where that wouldn't be an option right now, right? We live in a society
no, but
where
to be
we have
consistent, you should be able to say no murder laws, because who am I to judge? You should be able to choose to do whatever you want with any other being. You have to be consistent.
But then, that's where we just have a different discrepancy of what a fetus is.
Okay,
got it. We have a different moral opinion
I got
of
it.
what a fetus is.
What species is the fetus?
I mean, if it is from a human, it's a human fetus. If it's from a dolphin, it's a dolphin fetus.
Right,
if it's from an ant, it's an ant fetus.
If it's a human fetus, then wouldn't it have human rights?
But then, they don't have a social security number. You're not able to claim them on your taxes until after they're born. So that's what I'm saying. They don't have the same rights as humans. They don't have the same stuff as...
My 6-month-old can't buy a firearm. I don't understand your point.
Because it's illegal.
My 3-month-old didn't vote for Trump. She wanted to, but... I don't understand.
Because we have age limits on those things.
No,
but again,
yes, I'm saying
your 3-month-old or 3-year-old has a social security number, right? You're able to claim them as a dependent on their taxes because they are alive and breathing and are recognized by the U.S. government as being so.
Right. Again, if your argument is that our U.S. laws are reflective of abortion ethics, you are correct. But I suppose the question, you do know a 3-year-old doesn't have a driver's license either. I mean, at some point we can get towards the documentation argument is a little insane, but a fetus is still a human being worthy of human rights. And so when you say it's at birth, just understand the cruelty of that argument, that babies that are 28, 29, 30 weeks hear the mother's voice, they move completely, heartbeats, their own DNA. And I suppose the question I would ask, if it isn't your DNA, why should it be your choice?
But what do you mean by that? It is your DNA.
Well, no, it's not. A mother has her own separate DNA.
Yes.
Her baby has different DNA. So why should her DNA should be able to eliminate another set of DNA?
Because it is inside of her.
Your location means nothing. Whether you're inside utero or live in Columbia, South Carolina, you don't get more or less rights based on your location.
Okay, so then take the baby out and have it live in whatever. If it can survive on its own,
No,
it can
I agree.
survive on its own.
That's what the laws should say. Take the baby out the best we can and don't terminate it. That's
but
the
if
pro-life
it's at
position.
3 weeks, right? Okay, sure. I don't want to terminate my pregnancy, but we're going to take it out and try to give it the best life it can. It's not going to survive.
Well, at 3 weeks, first of all, you have a moral right to allow that baby to grow, which then goes back to my final point. Rape and incest, I disagree, but I think that's valid exceptions. How did the mother get pregnant in the 99% of the other time?
Sometimes it happens by accident.
No, what do you mean by accident? It's not like catching the flu. What do you mean by accident?
Condom breaks
but
whatever.
Wait,
even if you're using protection, not using protection, whatever.
But you made a decision to
happens.
have sex, right?
Sure.
You don't have to have sex. It's not like eating or showering. So therefore, we as pro-lifers believe you should take responsibility for your own actions and take responsibility for your own orgasms and not eliminate being smaller than you just because a mistake happened. Murder is not an option for a mistake. Murder is not the solution for a mistake. Does that make sense?
That's probably where we're going to disagree here. So.
Yeah, but again, the idea that you should be able to eliminate another human being because something happened that you don't like, I find to be wrong. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you. You guys are champs for going through this rain. Who wants hats, everybody? Yes.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
Okay, yes.
yeah. All right. What's up, Charlie? So my position is that I believe Trump is antithetical to everything American, whether that is him abusing powers, going against the Constitution. I mean, mainly those two things. His foreign policy, national policy is obviously all pretty atrocious. But if you want to talk about him abusing executive powers, I'd like to talk about that. Specifically in reference to the Mayor Adams case, where he's dropping the charges without prejudice.
Go ahead.
Is that not a blatant form of corruption that
No.
he's extorting? How
Why?
is
What-
dropping a charge without prejudice on a mayor that got federally indicted not corrupt?
It happens all the time. I mean,
That's, I mean,
I know what you're talking about. But, I mean, the charges were political in nature. President Trump got targeted by the Department of Justice. He goes out of his way to also show lawfare, goes after both parties, and drops the charges against a Democrat mayor, Eric Adams. Dropping charges without prejudice happens all the time. Biden did it for a lot of cases that the Trump administration had. If we want to talk abuse of power, maybe we should talk about how Joe Biden pardoned his entire family the last hour of his presidency. How Joe Biden pardoned Anthony Fauci preemptively, and Adam Kinzinger preemptively, and Liz Cheney preemptively, and Adam Schiff preemptively. Not that Donald Trump's DOJ dropped charges against Eric Adams. Joe Biden is the one that had to preemptively pardon his brother and his entire crime syndicate with the stroke of a pen the last hour of his presidency. If anybody is abusing power, it would be the prior president who didn't even know he was president, not Donald Trump.
Okay, so, I mean, you kind of pivoted there, but I will acknowledge what Joe Biden did was probably a corrupt abuse of actions. I would say abuse of power. But you also have to acknowledge Donald Trump is also abusing power in the same instant.
How?
Because
you keep saying that.
Because yes, he's extorting him because he's now letting ICE run jurisdiction in Rikers Island, which Mayor Adams signed an executive order letting ICE go back into Rikers Island.
Okay, so what are your facts? Where are the documents? Where are the first-hand, original source testimony that show there's an extortion at play? That's a huge accusation.
So Emil Bove even said himself, the Deputy Attorney General, that he's dropping these charges not based off any evidence, but it would be because it would interfere with his mayor duties. I don't know why we should drop federal charges on someone that for mayor interfering with mayor duties. That doesn't really make sense to me. I mean, but you would acknowledge I'm confused on why you don't think this is corrupt. Him federally dropping federal charges.
Because it's not corrupt. Again, lawfare is a problem that affects both parties.
I mean, but
so
you would agree what Joe Biden did is corrupt, but not Trump?
No. One was pardoning your family for the first time in American history. The other one is inheriting a sloppy, politically targeted case of the Department of Justice and then dismissing those charges.
But they said they're not dropping it based on the case of the evidence. They're not dropping it based on any type of evidence.
You can drop based on again. That's one Deputy Attorney General's interpretation. But why don't you tell me what Eric Adams was charged with?
For bribery, I believe misuse of funds. He defrauded New York for $5 million.
Yeah, like taking international flights on Turkish Airlines. I mean, it was like this insane case.
I mean, you're downplaying it, but
of course I am. Because let's be honest, why is it that Eric Adams was indicted?
Because he got caught of committing federal crime.
No, because Eric Adams was the only blue state mayor in the country to speak out against Biden's mass migration invasion, and they used Eric Adams as an example to try to say, if you dare step out of line against the 10 million people that come across the southern border, we will come against you. But how is it an abuse of power to do what the Department of Justice is constituted to do?
Because this isn't based off any evidence. This is a federal indictment. Obviously, if you want to make the distinction that he tried, his immigration policy could be reflective of why he got charged, that is only speculation. There'd be zero proof in that. What we do know is that Mayor Adams did go to Mar-a-Lago, and then, 3 days later, he got the charges dropped on him without prejudice? And if it was corrupt, why is he dropping without prejudice? Why wouldn't he just drop the charges or pardon him?
Do you know what without prejudice means?
Yeah, they can bring the charges back.
Yes, that's actually it's even a lower grade of it, which means that if there's more evidence, then they can reintroduce charges.
But
so they didn't do it with prejudice.
But it's not based off the evidence.
I'm interested though. So out of all the examples you could use, you think Donald Trump's corrupt and abuse of power because he has dropped the politically charged motivation
No, we
of
can
the
go
mayor of
to-
the largest state in the country.
We can go to him improperly using tariffs, calling national emergencies on Canada. He said there's a fentanyl crisis in Canada. There absolutely is.
No, there's fentanyl crisis in our country
Yeah,
coming
but
from Canada.
But he's saying it's happening at the northern border. That's how he's able to
it
unilaterally
is.
accept. So, do you
It's a
believe
fact,
his?
actually.
Okay, do you believe him implementing tariffs is him executing his economic policy or national policy?
well, national security, both. Yeah.
Do you think? I mean, you would agree that if you're going to try stopping fentanyl from coming in the country, you would at least give them a target number to get to.
He did.
hasn't provided anything.
No, he did. That's
no,
not
what's
correct.
the number?
Well, actually, it was privately discussed because you don't know that, but that's
oh.
fine. It was privately
Oh,
discussed.
what's the number? What is he?
I'm
what
not
are-
going to tell you the number,
Okay,
but I
I
happen
mean-
to know it. But like again, there was a benchmark that Canada was given in the intermediary period, Canada and Mexico. And by the way, do you know how many people die from drug overdoses every year in America?
A lot. That's
well
not-
over,
that's not what I'm-
No,
wait,
actually, it is
that's
what
the
you're
point.
asking.
No,
It's
it's not.
100. Hold on a second.
Okay.
It's absolutely what it is. It's 110,000 people die from drug overdoses, and a lot of people in South Carolina die from drug overdoses. That's a national security problem. When you have drugs flowing from a foreign country into your nation, and you use tariffs as a way to stop it, that is well within the commander-in-chief duties of the President of the United States. And President Trump was elected to do that.
Yeah, so, I mean, we're just talking about problems. 99.8% of the fentanyl that comes in this country does not come from the northern border. The same way he's enacting national emergencies on all the countries to implement his tariffs across the world.
Well,
That's
just to be clear, the Canadian tariffs were also because more people on the terrorist watch list come across the northern border than the southern border. So it was fentanyl plus the terrorist watch list. But then you would agree the Mexican tariffs are great because almost all the fentanyl in this country come across the southern border from Mexico.
I would say you have more of a case, but I believe why Trump is enacting these tariffs is clear for his economic policy. That's probably pretty corrupt. Him revoking constitutional rights is also pretty corrupt.
Wait, hold on. What constitutional rights is he revoking?
The Fifth Amendment, First Amendment.
On who? For what U.S. citizen?
Yeah.
No, what U.S. citizen does not have Fifth Amendment
Okay,
rights?
so you would agree that other people inside the United States, like lawful permanent residents,
no.
are also getting their green cards, also getting their Fifth Amendment
Yes,
revoked,
but,
right?
but green card holders don't get the
They
same constitutional rights.
absolutely do.
No, they
Wait,
do not.
hold on. Wait,
if an MS-13 member is in jail, they don't get Fifth Amendment rights.
Garcia is not an MS-13 member. That was all hearsay.
Oh, no, hold on
He
a
was-
second.
he was
was
granted-
already charged for it in
No.
court documents.
No.
He's been here for 10 years. He tried to evade, and he actually is back in his home country of El Salvador in a much different type of
No,
environment.
would you agree that the judge? I mean, Trump is literally ignoring judges' orders. He got a withholding for removal, correct?
Well, hold
in
on.
Maryland.
Tension between the second and third branch is nothing new. But explain to me how a circuit court judge, a federal judge, a district court judge has jurisdiction about what happens over international waters. Explain that to me.
No, I'm not even talking about the TROs that was implemented. I'm talking specifically about the Maryland case. How?
No, the Maryland case is that. So they scoop this guy up. They send him to El Salvador. How does a guy, a district court judge, have jurisdiction what happens international
You're
waters?
referring to Boasberg. I'm not. I'm talking about the Maryland judge that gave him withholding for removal. They violated that completely. They took him out of
Hold
Maryland.
on, no,
That's-
you have to answer the question. The guy's in El
because-
Salvador now.
Yeah, I know. But
So
you're
then how
referring
does
to
that
Boasberg.
judge have any jurisdiction over that?
Because you're referring to Boasberg implementing the
No,
TROs.
they're both.
I mean,
No, I'm not.
if you're gonna talk about him,
This Maryland judge just ordered the
He-
return of this guy in El Salvador. Yes.
yes, that's true.
Okay. Yeah. So how does that judge have jurisdiction?
I'm not even referring to that. I'm referring to 2019, way before where he was granted withholding for removal. Correct?
Okay. I'm not familiar. I'm not as familiar with that.
He
but
was granted withholder for removal, and then the ICE agents took him and deported him.
I
that is completely
I do have to
contrary.
take a step back. Do you guys see how far the left fights for MS-13 members?
not- wait,
And
wait, no,
you
no.
are fighting for
No.
that
No, I'm
because
not. I'm fighting for constitutional rights, not MS-13
Hold on a second.
members.
These
absolutely do.
illegals do not have the same constitutional rights we
They
do. They don't vote. They don't get vote. They don't get to vote. They can't buy firearms. They don't get the same due process. You broke our laws to come into this country. You don't get the same rights as a U.S. citizen,
They are
especially if you are part of MS-13. Especially if you are part of an enemy occupying force.
No.
And what I find, and again, this is a left-wing tactic to try to slow down the deportation effort, try to make saying, well, we need to have human rights for all the people that are coming here. Where were the human rights for the student at University of South Carolina that was just killed? Or the human rights of Laken Riley that was just killed at University of Georgia? And the left is intentionally trying to make permanent the enemy occupation of our land, trying to use our own customs against us for people that have never cared about our customs altogether. It is a giant scam, and I hope the deportations continue at great pace.
Once again, my point was not about me caring for illegal immigrants, MS-13 members, gang members. It was strictly on constitutional rights. There has been no case law to say that illegal immigrants don't deserve Fifth Amendment rights or First Amendment rights, which are clearly being revoked.
you would agree that he's not getting due process, correct?
No, there absolutely is case law. You
Wait,
can
what case?
repel an invasion.
No,
If a nation invades you, are you allowed to repel them, shoot them? Are you allowed to do that? Or do you have to stop every person that invades you and say, well, you have a right to speak and a right to an attorney? These are enemy combatants on our land. You don't have to all of a sudden give them a lawyer.
I mean, if you just don't like American law, that's fine. But people under the jurisdiction of the United States.
If someone invades America, what are we allowed to do?
You're allowed to deport them. Absolutely.
No. Forget deporting them. I'm talking about like invasion.
What would you consider an invasion? Are you talking about coming over here with guns?
Oh no, that's interesting. So MS-13 is a state.
Right.
Is a state-sponsored narco-terrorist organization from the government of Venezuela. This is not just a bunch of moms carrying babies. These are military-aged men that were previously in jail that were here with the intent to sow discord and crime and hurt the American people. Therefore, they are an enemy force on our land.
Fair. But Garcia wasn't. You can acknowledge that.
No, he was.
He absolutely. It was completely hearsay. Marco Rubio and Caroline Levitt have both lied about that.
Okay.
It was complete hearsay. And to be clear, wait. So for the 260 other people that have not got due process, you were fine with Trump invoking the Aliens Enemies Act
of course.
to revoke them of due process.
Yeah, we should be 26,000 of them.
So
and they're illegals. Again, by the way, this should send a message to the rest of the world.
How do we know where they're illegal?
Because they don't have proper documentation. Where's your
passport? But they weren't given due process.
I don't have one. No. You see, that's not true. Due process is a completely different thing of actually how these flights were loaded up. They went through scrupulous detail of every single individual. They had their identity. They fingerprinted them. They double-checked them with their country of origin. And then they say, hey, are you a U.S. citizen? They say no. Can we look in the database? There was an incredible amount of precision that went into this. But if you believe the media's lie, that, they just scooped up a bunch of random 260 people on the side of the street. Just so we're clear, the people on this flight were accused of raping children. These are people. Yes, they are. No, that's 100% true.
I know, true. But I'm not even making that argument. You're trying to get to a morality argument. No, I'm talking strictly from the American Constitution, right? Because I'm not even.
Where in the U.S. Constitution does it say those rights and privileges are applicable to people that come to your land illegally?
It gives credence to every person in the jurisdiction of the United States.
Yeah, but not if they're uninvited, and that goes back to the
absolutely.
That goes back to the 14th Amendment argument that if you come into our land illegally, you're not given the same rights as those that are able to that just break in. I do have to ask a question though, which is why the fight suddenly for the MS-13 members?
It's not MS-13 members. Once again, I'm going to state it again. I'm fighting for the Constitution of the United States, right? This is for America, not for, I don't care, like, even the people that murder people, they just still do deserve a right
just
to a trial.
Be consistent. Did you speak up at all the last 4 years when American citizens that were January 6th defendants didn't have any of their constitutional rights? Were you out there going to open mics advocating for them?
I mean, I'm not aware.
No, answer the question.
Yeah, okay, so
were you fighting for American citizens that were given no pretrial detention, no attorney or representation? Were you out there fighting for the Constitution, or do you only fight for MS-13 members when it's politically convenient?
Yeah, no, so...
No, answer the question.
Absolutely. If everything you said is true, I would absolutely be against that.
Did you? No, did you?
I'm not even aware of it. So
exactly.
That's not exactly.
That's the point.
I just agree
that was
with
the
you.
greatest deprivation of constitutional rights that we saw from the federal government of our own citizens. And then out of nowhere, all these groups that wouldn't be found for 4 years, that they lift a finger when moms went into the U.S. Capitol and said a prayer with their pocket constitution on their purse, were thrown into federal jail. All of a sudden, all these advocacy groups come and sue the federal government over people that have raped children. But we're silent over American patriots and veterans that went into the people's house non-violently and said a prayer.
Wait,
the hypocrisy is stunning.
Wait, what? No, first off, I'm agreeing. I'm consistent on that. I agree.
No, but you didn't. I'm not trying to criticize you. It's interesting what warrants the advocacy is what I'm getting. Is that all of a sudden we're all like big fans of the Constitution and due process, but the due process for all the other people that did not have the last 4 years was completely radio silence.
To be clear, I'm 20, so I've been 16 back then. So
fine.
I'm just.
But you're not even aware. It's not your point. Let me just offer you some grace. It's not necessarily even your fault. It's the propaganda machine.
No, okay.
The propaganda machine that makes this whole thing like, there's this Maryland father and all this. Meanwhile, we saw thousands of people.
What? Like, can I not wait? Sorry. Can I not make the same point about the J6ers that invaded the Capitol that they don't deserve due process for invasion?
Many of them didn't get due process.
Okay, I mean, so why would you be against that then?
No, of course I'm for it, but they're U.S. citizens. That's the distinction. Secondly, they didn't get due process. And thirdly, all the left-wing groups that are now suing Trump, they wouldn't lift a finger to go help any of the J6ers.
I mean, that's hypocrisy, sure. But
No, it's worse than hypocrisy. It's hierarchy. The left-wing groups basically say, it's more morally acceptable to come into this country and rape children. We'll fight for you than it is to walk into the U.S. Capitol and say a prayer if you wear a MAGA hat. That is basically the message that the left-wing activist legal community is sending right now.
I don't know why you keep jumping around. I'm talking specifically about the Fifth Amendment. Do you know specifically where in the Fifth Amendment it gives the carve out where illegal immigrants or illegal citizens don't have the Fifth Amendment rights? Where's the carve out for that?
It's a generally accepted judicial principle.
Under what case law?
Well, under plenty of, I would have to look up the specific case law.
I personally have. There has been zero case law that cites illegal immigrants. I mean, was it Miranda versus Arizona itself? That was
right.
under illegal immigrant.
Under the
Miranda
Enemy
rights now.
Invasions Act, so upon the declaration of an invasion, which President Trump signed on day one, right?
Yeah.
If you notice and recognize an invading force, so let me ask you a question. If all of a sudden China or Russia showed up with a bunch of tanks on our southern border, do we have to give all those people in tanks due process? Or are we able to shoot them?
Yeah, you're able to shoot them.
Okay, then why can't we do the same for MS-13 on our border? And we're actually being nicer than shooting them. We're sending back to their country of origin.
I'm not talking about MS-13. Once again, I'm talking about specific people that are not given due process. I mean, it's not like
we're talking in circles.
You're conflating issues. I mean, you're conflating issues.
But
first off,
they are an invading combatant force.
The invocation of the Aliens Enemies Act is completely unconstitutional the way he's using it.
Why?
Because he's giving people, he's writing, shipping people away without due process. The same way the INA was used for Mahmoud Khalil. Completely unconstitutional.
No, it's totally constitutional.
Absolutely not. I don't understand how you can deport someone based off their First Amendment right.
Okay, but again, they are not a U.S. citizen. They are not afforded the same U.S. rights, the same rights that we are.
Though, correct? Lawful permanent resident.
Can they vote?
No, they can't.
Can they own a gun?
No, they can't.
Or is the government allowed to quarter soldiers in their home?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay. Well, the point being is like at some point you don't have the same rights that we do.
I mean, you said hoarding, so I mean that's against the Third Amendment. I don't know.
Right. The point being they don't get the same rights that we do.
Well, no. They do absolutely get the same rights. It's the way
you just acknowledge they can't buy a gun.
Because I mean, you would agree felons in the United States would constitutionally not have the same rights we have, right?
Some of them, yes, for a temporary period. But yes, the point being is that you do something to earn that distinction.
No, it gets revoked under a certain, I believe you have to...
So let me ask you a question. Okay. So do you think we should deport people that are here illegally?
Yes.
So what would a due process look like? Because how it works now, you get a court date in 18 months, and we would deport maybe a couple thousand people.
Okay. I mean, that's just American law. I mean, I don't know why you're so shocked at that.
No.
If you want to
just so you guys understand what that means.
Because you have a fascist king that you like.
This is the left-wing conspiracy unfolding in front of your eyes.
You want an
let me explain it to you. Well, they'll say, oh, okay, we have to give everyone due process, and that means the deportations you voted for that you want will never happen because left-wing judges will slow this thing down to a grinding halt. When it is so clear and evident that these people are here illegally and they have invaded the country and committed crimes and they should return back to their country of origin. The failure to do that means you're no longer a country.
If you want to increase in federal judges, you can make that case, but you're not even advocating for that. You just want to supersede due process, anything in the Constitution because you don't like illegal immigrants, right? Like that's just.
Well, it's not a matter of I don't like it. The people voted for it. Like this is a basic democratic value. Do the people get what they voted for, or do a bunch of unelected judges slow down the will of the people?
Yeah, so
that's the question.
I mean, would you be for if the majority of people voted to overdo the Constitution?
No, of course not.
Wait, so why? Why? It's the will of the people.
Because when the will of the people vote for something righteous and good, of which this is.
Oh, so it has to be righteous and good.
Of course it does.
Who determines what's righteous and good?
Exactly. Western morality, the scriptures. We go back to the root cause of the West.
But that's extremely subjective, though, correct?
No, it's not. It's actually unilaterally objective. No, you see, what was the agreed upon moral principle the United States was formed on?
Not sure.
Yeah, it was the Bible. It was Western morality. Western morality of do not murder, do not steal, you can't touch kids, you're not allowed to break into a country without invite or warrant, and if you do, you'll return back to your country of origin. At some point, we get back to a truth claim, and the American people overwhelmingly voted for something.
Are you a theocrat, or do you believe in the...
No, I believe... Do you believe in separation of morality and state?
I believe, yeah.
You believe in separation of morality and state?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of dictate laws based off of morality.
No, you just said separation of morality and state.
I mean, just because we dictate it based off of morality, I mean...
No one believes in separation of morality and state. Every law is a reflection of some morality. Every single law.
Yeah, I know it's a reflection, but I mean, you can have someone unilaterally just say what their morality is, and
yes,
then we
of course. And
yeah, that's a separation.
No, but separation of church and state is not even in the U.S. Constitution. It's a whole separate issue. I'm not going to get into that.
I mean, I was just asking if you believed in that,
but yeah, just getting down to it, and I have to get to the next question.
Sure.
We are not going to allow orderly deportations to be thwarted by a group of district court judges that nobody voted for and thwart the will of the people to return our homeland back to native-born American citizens. Thank you so much.
All right.
We got to go fast, guys, because I think there might be a lightning issue, unfortunately, so we got to go fast. It's a safety thing. I get that. That's no joke.
Hey, Charlie. I'm glad to see you stayed dry in this weather. So somebody kind of asked my question. My name's Cameron. Somebody kind of asked my question already earlier. I was going to ask you, what is your testimony? But I have a second part that I can ask that will be a different answer.
I do want to get to disagreements, though, so make it super quick.
It's going to be, how do you let your political beliefs be shaped by your religious values, and do you believe that we should use religious values in our court systems?
Yes, I mean, every one of our Western moral principles is an outgrowth of the Scriptures. The failure to understand that is a serious problem. I mean, look, the Ten Commandments is what largely form the West, right? We can get into the details of that, but specifically, obviously, do not murder, do not steal, do not give false testimony, do not commit adultery. These laws, these ideas and these laws were formed and still form the West to this day. I'm happy to get more into that. But then if you don't agree with that, then by what moral order do you want to design society? And we've seen the alternatives are rather rubbish.
Yes, and I do agree, but it's also, I think it's an issue of, like you said before, where can we get morality? Where in the Constitution, if we do have freedom of religion, how can we give people freedom of religion while also upholding those values at the same time?
We should and can give freedom of conscience, but at some point you have to have a moral code that you agree on, and we believe that best moral code ever stems from the Scriptures.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Any disagreements, guys?
Hey, Charlie. Would you identify yourself as ultra-conservative?
Ultra MAGA conservative.
Okay.
How about that?
Awesome. So I would say that I'm pretty moderate. Both sides hate me, and I'm fine with that. I was just wondering if there was some kind of left idea or left policy that you agreed with, or if there was a policy that Trump has put in place that you disagree with.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about Canada being the 51st state, just because we already have enough libs in this country. So, an idea of the left I agree with. Yeah, I'd have to think about that. I mean, if a true liberal is anti-war, then I agree with them on that, because I tend to be anti-foreign involvement rather radically.
Okay. And then I have a second question. I see you all the time on social media, watch your videos, and I've never heard anybody ask this question. What do you think? Do you think that trans people should be in our military?
Absolutely not.
All right, that's all I have for you today.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
So I hear thunder. I want to keep you guys safe. Lightning's no joke. God bless you guys. We're going to have to wrap. I'm sorry. Thank you, guys.